Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man Score channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm finishing off my Mr. Haunted marathon for you guys, and this one's titled 3 True Disturbing Waterpark Horror Stories. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road to the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
My name is Chris, and I work at an indoor water park as a slide attendant in LA.
Okay.
Most of my responsibilities consist of ensuring the safety of guests and the water slides. Basically, I'm the one who tells people when they could slide down and always makes sure someone comes down the slide before letting others go.
Right, because you always might have an individual that wants to get on the slide in a hurry, or they might end up accidentally bumping into someone else in front of them and they go down the slide too quick and they were supposed to go down first, you know. Yeah, you always got to be careful on the water slide because somebody can slip on it and slide down and land hard in the pool below the slide. You just don't know what would happen at a water park nowadays. But anyway, let's continue with this guy's story.
It was an easy job, but you definitely have to pay attention as management takes safety very seriously.
I bet.
One day on what was supposed to be my day off, my manager calls me asking if I could cover a shift as someone had called in sick. I was annoyed, but I already worked part-time and I could really use the extra money. It also happened to be during a weekday, which meant that we would be closing earlier than usual. Weekdays were obviously less busier than weekends, so I was prepared for a smooth day with not too many people. The day went by faster than I thought, and as time progressed, I had to start getting ready to close. Now, we were short-staffed, so the park had required all of the slide staff to lock up and put everything away. I hated doing this, as the key to lock the gates would often get stuck in the lock itself.
Oh, I know that would have been a hassle, for sure. You try to get the key in the lock and turn it to lock it, and then it gets stuck. I'll be furious too. But also, you put it this way. He said it's during the weekdays and it's not that busy. That's always a plus because you can close earlier if there ain't that many people there. Because during the weekends, it's always going to be hectic and crowded full of people. But when time to close comes around, I know you'd be like cleaning up quick and locking up everything and getting your stuff and go. I mean, if I was working at a water park, I would feel the same way about closing time.
It was an old mechanism, so I guess it was understandable. Anyway, I'm heading over to another area of the park when I hear, of all things, someone whistling. Though it wasn't the type of whistling you do when trying to get someone's attention. It was more so the whistling you do when you're basically bored or walking around. The weirdest thing was that this whistling had this tone to it that actually sounded kind of nice and didn't seem to be far away. In that moment, I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, but if I had to put my finger on it, I'd say it was a male. Assuming that there must have been a guest here, I make my presence known by calling out to them that the park was closed. However, instead of replying to me like anyone would, the whistling continued.
Oh, yeah, that would be very disturbing to hear because you would think that the park is closed and nobody's supposed to be in there besides the workers. And if you hear somebody whistling, it'll sound like somebody just didn't have a care in the world and broke in to the place trying to have their own little private hangout by the pool, you know. But I can guarantee it's probably not a fellow co-worker messing with him. It's probably somebody that was either hiding there to enjoy the park all by themselves or somebody broke in to probably steal something. I don't know. You just don't know what will be happening with the situation. So I'm going to stop rambling and continue on with this guy's story, see what happens next.
Now, as per policy, we were required to directly go up to people who didn't leave, and that's what I did. The whistling seemed to be coming from the top of a water slide and only seemed to not stop. Annoyed as hell, I walked the 4 flights of stairs up to the water slide, expecting to see someone at the top, but instead saw no one. Also, the very second I got to the top, there was nothing but silence. I felt a chill run down my spine and figured that maybe the person had gone down the water slide. In a sort of confused state, I run down the stairs, but at the end of the slide was not a soul. My only guess was that this person was somehow inside of the slide, but that checked out when I had looked inside. This water slide was very narrow and straight, meaning it didn't have any loops or curves, so I was able to see inside easily. When I didn't find anyone in there, I went on my way, but not without hearing that all too familiar whistling. This time at the top of the slide once again. I found myself asking if someone else was up there, only to hear no response. For whatever reason, it was at that moment when I began to feel like I was being watched, and that's when I decided it was time to go. Long story short, I finished locking up before clocking out, not wanting to think about the whistling. The following day, I had told all my coworkers about it, but none of them seemed to have reported hearing the same thing. I still work at that water park and could have sworn I heard it once again for a second. Maybe it was my mind playing tricks on me, I don't know. Either way, this was one hell of an experience, as I still have no possible explanation as to what it was. I still don't know who or what could have possibly made that whistling noise. And that's the part that still creeps me out till this day.
Okay, that's creepy. You hear a whistling noise and you go to investigate, but then you can't find nobody? Man, that person must have figured that you were coming to look for them, and they either hid in the slide until you went away or bolted to the area that they broke into and got out of the building quick. I mean, you just don't know. But that person was really slick and getting out quicker. I hope he had security cameras in there, because they probably would have figured out who was making that whistling noise and see what they were up to. And then if you caught their face on camera, then you could ban them from that water park. Let's move on to story number 2, shall we?
Before I begin, I want to start off by saying that this is apparently something that happens way too often to people, especially to girls like myself. My name is Rachel, and this happened back in 2012 at a water park in South Florida.
Okay.
I won't disclose the name of the exact water park, as I don't want this being pushed out further than it already is. It was my 14th birthday, and my friends and I were spending the day at the water park. It was me, my best friend Kate, my friend Alyssa, and my other friend Samantha. My parents had given all of us money for the admission and even threw in some extra cash for food. They gave us the okay to go off on our own, but only with the condition to come back at the meetup point every 2 hours. That seemed like a reasonable request, and we had our fun riding pretty much all the water slides that were available.
Okay, everything seems to be normal at first. Mom and Dad give you permission to go hang out with your friends, but then you got to meet back up with them at a certain rendezvous point. That's cool. Get to experience the park with your friends all by yourself. But let's just continue on with this girl's story to see what happens next. That'll make this trip so horrifying.
At one point, we had gone to an attraction where they had those big pools with jet waves. However, seeing as to how many people were in the pool, we didn't feel comfortable swimming with dozens of other people. Samantha recommends we go get something to eat first and that the pool should die down soon. A little ways away from the pool was this concession stand that mainly served stuff like burgers and chicken tenders. Now, right beside this stand were bathrooms that appeared so disgusting that we didn't even want to go into. We agreed to eat there, as there was no one else around, which we didn't mind at all. We get our food, sit down at a nearby table, and start eating while talking about whatever stupid high school girls talked about. Katie was talking about a boy she had liked in her chemistry class when an older gentleman we had never seen before comes up to us out of nowhere. In his hand is a handheld flashlight, and he proceeded to say the following: "Hey, the lights in the bathroom aren't working. Could one of you come in with me and hold the flashlight while I pee?" Keep in mind that this man was a lot older than us, so asking us teenage girls to basically watch him pee was shocking enough.
Yeah, that would be shocking. I'd be like, hell no. I wonder why he has a flashlight to begin with. He probably didn't even need to go to pee. He's got a secret area that he probably dug out in the bathroom to lure them into, or he was probably planning on knocking one of them over the head when he got into the restroom and take him somewhere. You just don't know. But it's already sending off red flag signals. So these ladies need to just say no and wait for him to leave and get a Waterpark employee to go after him and get him away from him, because that is so unnecessary or so wrong that someone asks a girl to hold the flashlight while he pees.
I spoke up, saying that we were fine and that an employee could possibly help him. However, instead of getting the hint to leave us alone, he disregarded what I had said and insisted we help him. Katie, being the older and protective friend she was, put her foot down and told the guy to get lost. Katie doesn't take crap from anyone no matter who they were, so when she told the guy to get lost, she meant it. The man stares at us in a sort of disappointed manner before heading over to another area of the park. At this point, we're all sort of confused as to what the hell his problem was and continued our day at the park. We were even debating to tell our parents, but at the same time, we didn't want to cause drama from some creep. We continued around the park until sundown, when the park was beginning to close. We all went back to my house to hang out for a bit, seeing as it was summer vacation, so that meant there was no school the next day. At one point, we're all playing Just Dance on the Wii when the man from earlier was brought up in conversation. We started talking about just how creepy his request was. In the moment, you wouldn't really think too much of it, but when you sit down and actually reflect, you start to understand. It wasn't until Samantha chimed in and said something that made our skin crawl.
You know, he never went into the bathroom in the first place. How would he know the lights didn't work?
Yeah, I would have confronted him about that. Be like, well, if you know that the lights didn't work, how come you haven't gone near the bathroom? But thank God her friend put her foot down and said no, clear as day, and he just wanted to keep going around about with them and say he really needed their help. But she known something was off. Once you step foot in that bathroom, he probably would have knocked him overhead to kidnap him. Oh man, at this point, I'd be trying to find a water park employee to go over there and question him if he needed help from them. And if it ain't nothing to do with the lights, like he's faking it, he needs to leave and be trespassed from that park for life. I know he wouldn't be laughing if he got in trouble, for sure. That is very scary. So, you all heard this person's testimony right here. If you go to a water park and somebody tries to pull that same stunt on you, like the bathroom lights ain't working, ignore their plea for help and say, go get a park employee to help you out, because I know they're probably luring you to a trap.
This story is a bit long, so I apologize for the unnecessary details I may add, as this was a very dark and traumatizing experience. For starters, I'm a female who's currently in college but was in 4th grade when this happened. I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was spring break of 2014, and I was visiting my aunt and uncle in Georgia. I rarely see my extended family, so they wanted to do something special with me since I'd be staying with them the whole break. My uncle had bought all of us tickets to go to Six Flags in Atlanta as the highlight of my spring break. Being a kid, I was obviously stoked as I had never been to Six Flags and always wanted to go. At the time, I was staying with them in a small town in eastern Georgia, which meant that we'd have to drive a good 2 hours to Atlanta. As much as they didn't want to do that drive, they had already bought the tickets and we had went on our way to the park. Now, the park had all sorts of attractions, but I mainly wanted to play in the Waterpark area. I loved water slides as a kid, and with it being the middle of spring, I couldn't resist. My aunt would always be with me to sort of watch over me, as this place was huge and was easy to get lost. At one point, we're walking around soaked from all the water when I see a particular water slide I wanted to go on. It was called the Pirate's Plunge and was this huge yellow slide with all sorts of turns and loops. Even though the line was long, it went by pretty quick as the slide was apparently really fast. Fast forward to an hour later, I get into the front of the line when a man comes from behind and politely asks if he can go first. Hi, I know you've been waiting for so long, but my son is down there and he gets really nervous when I'm not behind him. Do you mind if I go first? Right off the bat, I started to notice that this guy was acting completely off. For one, his face was red as a tomato when he asked this, and I didn't see him behind until now. I'm not one to argue, so I said yes, and he thanked me for my kindness.
That would be weird just to stand in line for a ride on the water slide and some guy with a sun red tomato face walks up saying, "Hey, can I get in front of you because my son already went ahead and he gets scared if I don't go right behind him." I guarantee he probably don't even have no son. He was just saying that to get in front of her and get on the water slide before her. But makes you wonder, is this guy drunk or hence the reddish face, or was he planning on kidnapping children? But I don't want to jump at any conclusions, so let's just continue and see what happens.
I watched this man go down the water slide, disappearing into the darkness below. It was only until a few seconds after where the lifeguard told me that I could go. I put my feet down first and scooted myself up to the drop-off point and happily slid down. A few seconds go by and I'm sliding down when I come across the man holding himself up in the water slide. Because the slide was painted yellow, I could still see him, and he grabs me by my bathing suit while putting his hand over my mouth. Right then, he says, "Now, don't you scream or else I'll kill you right here." Tears start rolling down my cheeks as he said this, but I try my best not to make any noise. The man attempts to reach for something in his bathing suit, and within a few seconds, he pulls out a knife. In a very demanding tone, he tells me to remove my bathing suit or else he'd do it for me. At this point, I was too scared to even move, but when he yelled at me a second time, I had to comply. I raise my arm and begin to pull off my strap when part of the slide opens up right next to us and a staff member can be seen. Thankfully, the lifeguard sees what's going on and he then pushes the man back down the slide while pulling me out. All the while, the lifeguard is screaming on his radio to not let that man leave. This got the attention of several people in the park, staring at him like he was some madman. The brave and well-fit lifeguard brings me to my aunt and uncle, explaining the situation where we were then confronted by police. Turns out, the man who had held me was a registered sex offender in the area and had a history of severe mental illness. He was arrested for the first time, but had managed to put up a fight with police, claiming that he didn't do anything and how he was innocent. The lifeguard who saved me heard the commotion going on inside of the slide and opened up the safety hatch to see what was going on. These safety hatches allow staff to open a part of the slide in case someone is stuck or if nobody comes down in the end. The lifeguard was written up for physically pushing the man down the slide while saving me. Him being written up was total BS in my opinion and really pissed me off as I got older. Anyway, that's my story, and I hope you can learn from it and always trust your own gut.
I'm so sorry that girl had to go through all that back when she was 4 years old. It's scary to think you're going down a slide and you get grabbed by the guy that you let in front of. And it turned out he was a sex offender and an unstable nutcase who might end up killing her. And if she didn't comply, he probably would have. But thank God that lifeguard came to her rescue, because if he didn't, she would have been not only scarred for life, but messed with. Let's just put it that way. God, that's nasty. But I'm mad that his bosses read him up for pushing him down the slide. I mean, like, dude, what the heck? I know it was probably against policy for pushing people, but he had to for protecting that girl from either getting killed or raped. His boss is one SOB. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more Mr. Haunted content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Quarter channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and I said that's a wrap, and that's day all.